Hello and welcome. We are doing a tutorial today about how to set up your LPL Plus performance. So just a quick glance at this, let's see what it comes with. Obviously you have this display right here. It will come with a OBD2 wire, which we already have connected to the OBD2 port. Obviously you plug that in to the side right here. And it has only two options here in regards to what allows you to do. You have the power button here, and you have a dial here that allows you to essentially scroll up and down, and also you press in to choose things. On the screen itself, you have over here essentially will display how many miles you've driven for that trip, the driving time for that trip. You also have here the miles per hour, the RPM, and here you have a speed warning light. Essentially you'll be able to set up what's the highest speed before the warning comes on. Essentially, if you want to set up to 100 miles per hour or 40 miles per hour, this will automatically light up and it will beep, and then it will notify you essentially of that. Right over here we have essentially the sound, which you can mute. If the light is on, the sound is on. Here there's a B, which is for Bluetooth, which is another function that we'll discuss a little later. Essentially allows you to know that you are connected via Bluetooth to your phone. And here is your battery light, which essentially you can also set to see how many volts you have producing from your alternator. So if you do have a drop, it'll also notify you as well. And right here we have a light sensor. So it's going to allow you essentially to set if you want the system to dim out or brighten up based on the ambient light that's around the car. So if it's too dark, it will dim the lights. If it's too bright, it will brighten the lights for you. So we'll go ahead and start this up. Basically, we press this down. It'll take a couple of seconds to calibrate. And boom, here we go. So automatically here, obviously it started right away too bright, and then it automatically adjusted because we kind of in a not so bright location right now because the car is pretty tinted. So once again, the mileage driven, the driving time, which essentially is calculated from the second basically the car is turned on. Miles per hour, 0. RPM gauge right below 1000 RPMs, which is essentially the car's idling at around 700 or so. If I hit the gas, you see that change right there. Now let's set it up. So what we have to do is we have to take that dial, which is right here. Let me see if I can show you that again. Okay. And you hold that dial in for a couple of seconds. You hear it beep, and basically essentially got you into the setup menu. The first option, 0, essentially this sets up the speed. Where would you like to have the speed warn you? So if let's say you want to say I don't want to go over 70 miles per hour, you can set that to 70 miles per hour, and then if you go over that speed, automatically it will beep and also this light will come on. Now if you do continue to go over 70 miles per hour, the beeping will stop and just the light will stay on, so that way it doesn't bother you the whole time. And the way to change that number, right now we have it set at 41, so is to take this dial and just go up and down. And then to set it there, you have to go to the next option. You hold that down, and essentially it goes to number 1. Now this is for the RPM. The RPM right now is set at 30, which is essentially 3000 RPMs. So if you want to say, hey, I'd like to be notified to shift at 4000 or 5000, automatically you can change that up or down based on that. Once you have received the number that you want, essentially you hold it down again and it goes to the next setup. This is the setup for the screen itself, which is the light output. So if you go by number 2, which is basically going to be bright at all times. If you go by number 1, it'll be dim at all times, but if you keep it at 0, which is my preferred option, automatically it will change the brightness based on if it's dark out or light out and so on. So then we go to option number 3. Option number 3 essentially is for the battery voltage. Now we have it set up at 14 because that is generally the output that most vehicles put out. If you can change that as well if you'd like, but essentially if it does start dipping below that, it will automatically notify you. Now the last option is really not dedicated for the US. The last option is only designed for European cars, so you don't have to worry about that, and we just move on. So once again, 0 here, which basically gives you the first setting of speed. Let's set it at 65. Then number 1 is RPM. Let's set it at 3000. Let's set it at 3500. Then 2 is the ambient light situation, where it allows you to dim out or brighten up the screen. We'll leave it at 0. And 3 is essentially the voltage, which we'll leave it at 13. I like to put it actually at 14, which I know this is what puts out for this vehicle. And 4 we don't worry about. So once we reach number 4, to save all these settings, you just have to hold down. There we go. So now that you've held that down, it automatically saved all the settings. And let's see here. So we put this RPM at 3500, and as soon as we reach the 3500 mark, so the way this RPM gauge works essentially is once the light reaches the 2, it automatically lights up to 2. Once it reaches the 3, it automatically will light up to 3, and so on. So to go to the 4, there you go. And one thing you'll notice is that the numbers here will sometimes not match. Actually, most of the time will not match your analog speedo. And the reason why is because this is more digital, so this is more accurate. It's coming directly from the ECU versus this is an analog system, so it's not as accurate as what this system will give you. So sometimes the RPM and also the speed will not be the exact same as you see it on your dash, and that's okay because the information displayed from here is actually more accurate than information that is displayed in your analog speedometer. Alright, so that basically kind of finishes the whole setup for this system. I mean, it's pretty easy to use, and you will be able to see the difference in basically your performance, if it's in MPG or if it's in power gains, once the system has studied your driving habits for about a couple of weeks or so. And then it automatically will adjust the parameters based on your driving habits, and that would be if it's more power or if it's better gas mileage. So lastly, we're going to talk about one last feature of this, which is the Bluetooth function here. So essentially, let me just go ahead and just set this in here so it doesn't move. The Bluetooth function allows you to connect to your phone and allows you to also read codes and clear them if you do have any on your vehicle, which is, I think, a very neat option. So to be able to do that, let me go ahead and take you through this. So the first thing is you need to download the app, and the app is called Torque, just like horsepower and torque Lite. I'm not sure if you can see that on here, but this is what the app looks like. You can download that for free from your app store, if it's Android or Apple, and it's pretty easy to use. So as soon as you download that, the first thing we have to do is we have to turn on our Bluetooth. So once we turn on our Bluetooth, oh, it's connected to my headset. Let me go ahead and turn that off. All right, so now you will search. I have it already on here. It's called HUD. You will search basically, and let me go ahead and unpair this just so that way we can start fresh. We'll go ahead and search for, and get some, here we go. We'll go ahead and search for, we turn on our Bluetooth, we unpaired it. Once it searches for devices, you might see it as HUD, you might see it as just a bunch of numbers, but once you connect to it, it automatically will change it to HUD again. So once you pair that, and there's going to be a password. Now the password is usually either 4 zeros or 1 2 3 4. In this scenario, it's 1 2 3 4. And we'll go ahead and pair it. Alright, so once we have it paired, now we go ahead into the app itself. Let's see here. And we turn on the app, and just a couple of things. You go ahead and click OK through them. And right up on top here, you'll see that it says checking Proto. Connected to ECU, everything's okay. And now we know that it is connected. And if you see here, we have the B is on, which tells us that we are connected via Bluetooth to our phone, which shows that over here as well with a vehicle light essentially on and not blinking. So the way to utilize this app is really simple. So it gives you options in regards to actually installing dials even onto your little screen. So you can add a display in a dial, graph, or a different type of display. So here's a display. We'll say we want engine RPM in a small. So here's the engine RPM. It's sitting at 680 or so. We can hit the gas, see it move up, and essentially you know that it's working correctly. Now to check your engine codes, it's pretty simple. You just click on this settings picture here, and then once you do that, it says fault codes. You click on that, and then you can either show fault codes, clear the codes, show pending codes, or historic codes. Now I know there's no codes on this vehicle, but we'll check it anyways. And as it says, no fault code stored in the ECU at this time. So that's definitely a great function for this performance chip, because it allows you to essentially diagnose your own car if you did have an issue. And that saves a lot of money, because generally when you go to any mechanic shop, they will charge you at least 1 hour labor to do that. And most of the time it'll be something very simple that you could have done and fixed on your own. Once again, thanks for watching, and let us know if you have any questions in regards to this item.